we're here in Davos, and of course, it's another year. And of course, IBM's big presence here at Davos is noted, and we're with Mark Hughes. So one of the big topics was AI last year, but now the big topic is really how do we secure AI? How do we make AI successful? How do we actually interoperate? And more importantly, how do we deal and be on the defensive side of an AI attack? What are you hearing? What are you seeing? And what are people asking you about?
Well, Ray, it's an amazing time in terms of AI adoption, and I'm so excited about all the things that are going to come from that. I'm just going to unpack what you said a bit, because really when it comes to security and AI, there's two ways in which we think about it. The first one is, how can we adopt AI and how can we make security better so it improves our chances against the attackers? And just to take that in a bit more detail, security has been really good at automating and driving the need to be quick. And really, that's one thing that is so important in security, that you need to be quicker than the adversary that you're up against to get to and detect what's going on so you can then give yourself time to respond. And also the accuracy to actually understand how you can drill in through the vast amounts of signals that you've got to work out accurately what you can focus on to actually then take the necessary action. So the first area about how we use AI in security is a sort of natural path from machine learning and other types of techniques that we've used for some time. So I'm really excited to say that here at IBM and more broadly in the industry, we're very early and aggressive adopters, not just of how we put AI agents into our workflows and rethinking and reimagining those workflows, but beyond that now, how we've got those agents working agentically together to now really re-engineer a lot of the workflows. And that's almost about reimagining parts of security. And it's not just in our detection and response area, it's in areas like identity, which have traditionally been really difficult problems to solve. The AI is now that learning capability and that generative way of the way in which AI can solve some of those and really progress and improve those approaches is having a massive impact. So what it's doing, first and foremost, making us speed up and also then bringing us better accuracy. But of course, with that comes productivity saving as well. So a big change happening in how security is adopting and approaching AI. So that's one area. But then we come to the other part of your question, which is also, in fact, if not more important, which is, well, what are we doing about securing all of those AI deployments that we're seeing at the moment? Now, that's a massive area that I'm afraid that many organizations, to be frank, are not thinking hard enough about yet. So then we come to the other area where it's about how we secure all of those AI deployments that we have across every enterprise happening at the moment. And I think it's worth, again, just a little bit thinking a bit about how organizations are approaching their AI deployments. So we've seen a lot happening in the sort of productivity space. In fact, at IBM, we have the Institute of Business Value, and there we actually have done some research that says that 80% of CIOs absolutely understand the fact that there's going to be improvements and benefits in terms of driving revenue, but the actual today outcome and ROI on that is much lower. In fact, only 24% saying that they're actually seeing that uptick. And that's a common theme, I think, that we're seeing.
That's a good number, though.
It is a good number, and it is. And it's very much centered around, at the moment, the productivity saving is where most of the AI is concentrated on. But the reality is, as we know, and this is our thinking in IBM, is you really have to re-architect and not just re-architect process in the way the business is operating to really get the benefit from it. And that's not just about taking processes that we know that might be suboptimal and using AI to really now make those more efficient. There's benefit in that, don't get me wrong, but that's not really the promised area where we can get to if we really think about AI differently. Yeah. So what that means is, let's think at one layer to start with, the data layer. So how do you get the data in a place where you can vector it, where you can really make it useful to train the AI models on in that reimagined enterprise to really drive revenue growth? And so getting the data right straight off poses a challenge for security. The data needs to be put into models, which then need to be trained. Those agents then will operate interoperably in an agentic way. All of that requires a security wrapper around it. And in many respects, that is, it's a really foundational part of being successful in AI and AI deployments more broadly. And it's an area where I think many organizations are not paying enough attention to yet. Good news is, in that area, we have a lot of security techniques, right? A lot that we've done a lot with. We know how to secure data. We know how to manage the security of data in transit. But applying that now in the way in which we're going to be using that data in the AI area, it requires new thinking and structural architectural thinking. A lot of advice is required there. So that's at the data layer. But then we go up, and we go up to then, okay, so we've got the agents deployed. They're doing great things. They're using the language models they're working on. That's fantastic, great outcomes coming. But what identities do they have? What privileges do they have? Who are the, are they allowed to talk to the other agents? And if they are at the same privilege, level of privilege or not? And how do we make sure that we're managing those identities, managing those levels of access, and we have the traceability through there to do that. So that's another area. And then we go one stage further, which is right, okay, so the models themselves, how are they behaving? Are they giving us the sort of outputs that we thought that we should be seeing? So there's that whole behavioral model aspect. And then we come to, Ray, of course, the inevitable one, which is all of that AI, how it's deployed with all of the connectivity and everything else, of course, is going to be targeted very heavily by threat actors, potentially using AI techniques themselves. So it's a big area on how we secure this. Many organizations are really not thinking that through, and I think that is reflective of the fact that they perhaps haven't quite got their heads around a full architectural approach to how they're deploying AI in their enterprise.
Well, it's not that they just didn't do that. They're also piecemeal, right? We've seen in so many cases, they're using multiple approaches, they're using multiple vendors, and now they're unable to actually scale up or get to the next level.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest challenges our clients are facing right now is an area that I know you cover, which is post-breach resiliency. Mm-hmm. How do we actually get the situational analysis and awareness to actually then come back and monitor to be able to react quickly when the breach occurs or when an attack occurs?
Yeah, great question. I have some great news there, which is that we're very quickly in security getting busy because we recognize that if we look to the past, and sometimes the past is useful here, to how we deployed cloud in our enterprises, and that was not that long ago, and the reality is that we didn't in security get ahead of that. Right? And still today we're struggling with cloud instances.
And the growth of hybrid is only going to attack, and the fact that we're bringing our models back onto private notions, sovereign AI. I mean, you're going to be busy for quite some time.
Enormous to think about, and these are great questions. They're fantastic questions because they're really, So how do we learn from, say, something like cloud?
Exactly.
Well, first things first. It's not at its outset a security conundrum. As I said it before, it's really about architecturally, organizationally. It comes down to all of those things. Governance. I know that's kind of a dreary word sometimes to some people, but for me, it's really important because I often think security really starts with a good thinking and thought process around governance. We can piece the security in when we need to, but the important thing is that we piece it in when we're thinking about it foundationally.
Yes, security by design.
There you go. Security by design is exactly what it's all about. And to get into it, there are then techniques and security tooling that we are now seeing emerging that is going to deal with some of those challenges that I talked about before in how you now deploy the actual agents themselves and make use of it in the organization. So we see a new class of AI security tooling appearing in conjunction with those things that we know about already, wrapped within that overall governance framework, which isn't a security thing, just to be clear on that.
So in summary, because of AI, we now have exponential scale both in offense and defense. We now have infinite possibilities in terms of actually looking at attack vectors and threats and trying to figure out how to minimize that and reduce that risk. Mm-hmm. And more importantly, we're actually in a situation where, we can actually be more proactive and get ahead of the issue.
Yeah, exactly that. And I don't want to over dramatize it. Look, if you think about some simple analogies, there's the internet, and then there's how enterprises run and how they manage their data. There are some distinct different areas about how we deploy AI into enterprises and how we use enterprise data to train models that specifically are for those enterprise workflows with the agents that work from there. Now that's quite specific. So we can contain that. We can put security controls around that, as opposed to we can use general purpose assistance, for example, and that's a different thing. You need to do different security things there in terms of what data are allowed or how they are deployed into the enterprise. So those are all those considerations. So yes, you're absolutely right. There's a whole new series of attack and defensive techniques that are required. But thinking it through from the outset, you can pretty quickly, with the right advice and the right approach, get to the point of, as always, in security, the challenge always is you've got to do a lot of things reasonably well all the time. And that's what I would urge anyone watching this to really think about. And find those things that make you get your biggest bang for your buck, and then do them well.
Real quick, boards, CIOs, they're all here at Davos. They're going to walk out their 2026 plans, think about what they need to do. top 3 things, lightning round, 30 seconds. What would you say they should walk out thinking about?
Secure your AI. That is a top of mind. Secondly, use AI in your security space to automate and really now think about what autonomous security looks like in the future, which is really a thing. Thirdly, post-quantum cryptography. We see the quantum revolution about to happen in the sense that quantum capability is going to be there. That is going to have an impact on the existing cryptography we run today. Get busy discovering what cryptography you have and looking at how you can remediate and be ready for when that time comes to have the right crypt in place that is quantum resistant.
Y2Q is coming. What date? 2028, 27,
29,
over under?
29. And it's not just me saying that. Think about many national bodies are talking about that. 29, we think the capability will be there.
Under, over 2029, next Davos, we'll double check.
And so just very finally on that, Ray, get busy discovering, working out where your crypt is and getting a remediation plan in place. There is time now.
Don't wait.
You have to start.
Don't wait.
Absolutely right.
So, hey, thanks a lot for being here. This is great. Thanks for the conversation.
Not at all.